a single grain of rice, packed tightly into a triangle and wrapped in seaweed, once determined whether a samurai army could march another day or collapse from starvation on the battlefield. Long before onigiri became a convenience store snack sold by the millions across Japan, it was military technology, engineered specifically to keep soldiers alive and moving during some of the most brutal campaigns in Japanese history. Rice cultivation arrived in Japan sometime around 300 BC, brought over from the Asian mainland, and it quickly became the foundation of Japanese agriculture and society. But rice in its cooked form presented an obvious problem for anyone who needed to travel, work, or fight. It was messy, it spoiled quickly in warm conditions, and it had no easy way to be carried or eaten without utensils, plates, or a place to sit down and rest. This is the part that most people never learn. The earliest known form of onigiri wasn't even called by that name, and it wasn't designed as a snack at all. Archaeological evidence from the Yayoi period, dating back over 2,000 years, includes carbonized rice remains shaped into compact clumps, suggesting that compressed rice portions existed as a practical food solution long before Japan had samurai, castles, or any of the imagery most people associate with the country's feudal history. By the time of the Heian period, beginning in the 8th century, distributed specifically to laborers and low-ranking workers as a practical, no-fuss meal that required no cooking equipment, no utensils, and no time-consuming preparation once packed. This wasn't refined food, it was fuel, meant to be eaten quickly with bare hands and forgotten just as fast. But there was a problem. As Japan entered its long period of near-constant civil war, the Sengoku period, spanning roughly from the mid-1400s to the early 1600s, feeding large standing armies became one of the single greatest logistical challenges facing any warlord attempting to hold territory or expand it. Soldiers on extended campaigns couldn't rely on hot meals prepared over open fires every single day, particularly during forced marches, sieges, or sudden troop movements where stopping to cook was simply not an option. Onigiri solved this problem almost perfectly. Rice could be cooked in bulk back at camp, compressed tightly into portable shapes, often wrapped in bamboo leaves or seaweed for both preservation and easier handling, and then distributed to soldiers who could eat on the move without needing fire, utensils, or any pause in their advance. A single onigiri provided a dense, calorie-rich meal that required nothing more than 2 hands and a few seconds to consume, making it uniquely suited to the brutal, unpredictable pace of Sengoku-era warfare. Samurai commanders understood the strategic value of this innovation, and military logistics during this period increasingly prioritized efficient rice compression and distribution as a core part of campaign planning. Some historical accounts suggest that entire supply chains were organized specifically around producing large quantities of compressed rice before major battles or sieges, with the shape itself, typically triangular, chosen deliberately for practical reasons. Triangles stacked and transported more efficiently than round shapes, and the pointed form made them easier to grip and bite into cleanly without the rice crumbling apart in a soldier's hands. If you're finding this story interesting, hit subscribe. Salt played a critical role beyond flavor. Samurai and laborers engaged in intense physical exertion, whether marching for days or laboring on castle construction, lost significant amounts of salt through sweat, and coating onigiri with salt served a genuine physiological purpose, helping replenish electrolytes lost during grueling activity, long before anyone understood the biological reasoning behind why it worked. This wasn't a seasoning choice made for taste alone. It was, in a very real sense, primitive sports nutrition. The seaweed wrapping that most people associate with modern onigiri today actually developed relatively late in this long history. Nori, the thin sheets of dried seaweed used to wrap rice, didn't become widely available or affordable until commercial seaweed cultivation techniques improved significantly during the Edo period, beginning in the early 1600s. Before this innovation, onigiri were far more likely to be wrapped in bamboo leaves, kelp, or simply eaten without any wrapping at all, meaning the seaweed-wrapped version so strongly associated with onigiri today is actually a relatively recent development in a food tradition stretching back well over 1,000 years. By the Edo period, onigiri had firmly transitioned beyond military use into everyday civilian life, sold by street vendors and prepared for travelers making long journeys along Japan's expanding network of roads. Its portability, combined with its low cost and simple preparation, made it a practical food choice for merchants, pilgrims, and ordinary travelers navigating a country where reliable food options along remote routes were far from guaranteed. The 20th century transformed onigiri once again, as Japan's rapid industrialization and post-war economic growth created enormous demand for quick, affordable, mass-produced food options suited to an increasingly fast-paced urban lifestyle. Convenience stores, which began proliferating across Japan starting in the 1970s, adopted onigiri as a signature product, refining mass production techniques and packaging innovations, including a now famous plastic wrapping method, specifically engineered to keep the seaweed crisp and separate from the rice until the moment of consumption. Today, convenience stores across Japan sell an estimated several billion onigiri every single year, a staggering figure for a food whose earliest ancestors were compressed rice clumps, carried by soldiers who had no idea their battlefield ration would eventually become one of the most recognizable and beloved foods in modern Japanese culture. Onigiri's story spans over 2,000 years, from carbonized rice remnants left by yaoi period farmers, through the brutal military logistics of Sengoku-era civil war, into Edo period travel culture, and finally into the fluorescent lit shelves of modern convenience stores found on nearly every street corner across Japan. And it's still sitting on those shelves tonight, the direct descendant of a battlefield ration once relied upon by soldiers who understood, centuries before modern nutrition science existed, that survival sometimes came down to nothing more complicated than rice, salt, and the ability to eat quickly with both hands. If this surprised you, subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden histories behind everyday things.